Welcome to the Agency Uplift Podcast, the show all about the unique experience of growing a digital agency, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings. I'm your host, Sean Lang, agency owner of over 70 years and co-founder of Social Commerce Club. And today I'm joined by Peter Kang, co-founder of Barrel Holdings. They actually acquire, manage, and launch agency businesses. And I think this is going to be a really interesting and unique conversation. Peter, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah. So there's so many different directions that we could take this in. But first, I always just love to hear everyone's origin story. How did you get into the agency space in the first place?
Yeah, I think the roots go way back, to probably yeah, it was elementary, middle school. Yeah, elementary and middle school. I was kind of early to the game on web design and development. I learned HTML at an early age, and yeah, just always fascinated with yeah, just building websites. Just had my own little online magazine, and then just kept up with just my own projects, and then started to do some websites for other people. It might have been like my dad's friend who needed a website, or somebody in the neighborhood. And then when I got to college, I actually met my co-founder, Se Wook. We both went to Columbia in New York City, and yeah, we just to make beer money, I guess. We started doing websites, and yeah, we found into a natural kind of rhythm and groove working with each other. So I tend to lean more towards kind of the client services, business development, and the design side of things. And then Sewook was very proficient and technical on the HTML side, and taught himself how to program a little bit. And so the two of us, we made a good combo, and did a lot of projects together. I'm a couple years older than Sewook, so I graduated first, went to work in finance, did a stint at Lehman Brothers doing investment banking, but soon found out like, hey, this is not the future I want, and ended up meeting up with Sewook on the weekends. We bang out some websites together, and work on some creative projects. Did a lot of work for like school clubs, like artists, nonprofits, and built a portfolio, moonlighting basically. While I was in banking, and so yeah, once I got my bonus from the banking job, I quit, and then we decided to launch Barrel. There was still a year where I was working out of an apartment in Astoria, Queens, and trying to figure out like, hey, what is like, how do I just level up my skills? Did a lot of study in like branding, UX, just, took on whatever projects we could. And, Seawick would still come over every weekend. We'd build the websites together. And then, by the time he graduated, we had a little roster of clients, and we were like, hey, let's do this full on and see where we could take it. So yeah, it was almost 20 years ago. And yeah, we kept at it. And like, honestly, the first 5 years were really, just like a yeah hand to mouth existence, I guess. Just we did a lot of odd um jobs here and there to just keep the lights on and pay ourselves enough to make rent. But yeah, like, for whatever reason, we loved what we did, and we just kept on learning stuff, and we stuck with it. Like, there were there were moments where like some of my friends had gone from you know their banking jobs to business school to private equity and or whatever, and just making tons of money, and like here we were, just barely eking out a living making websites, but just something kept us going, and little by little we started attracting some interesting clients. Some became uh, you know, successful, like, let's say, startups that scaled up. And then we started getting some corporate jobs here and there, to do their websites. And yeah, before we knew it, we started having a reputation. We started to build a team. And then, yeah, like, I mean, it was 10 years before we knew it. And then another 15 years before we knew it. And, it was really along the way that we got exposed to a lot of different agency concepts that I'm sure we can talk about, but like, we thought a lot more about positioning. We thought a lot more about specialization. We thought more about, like designing our services a certain way. And, some of the things that we learned, or decided to do was, specializing, our agency Barrel, into, doing more e-commerce. Shopify became, a thing, especially, in the mid, 2010s when, just the whole direct to consumer movement was really blowing up. And so we became, yeah, a very focused agency doing e-commerce on Shopify. A lot of website builds there. Um, but that led us to make some interesting choices. Which one of them, which was, hey, like we have all these clients that want WordPress that no longer kind of fit what we want to do. What do we do with them? And that was the genesis of like this idea of like multiple agencies. We spun out an agency called Vaulted Oak, doing support and maintenance. They also do a little bit of Shopify, and then WordPress as well, but like mainly support and maintenance focus. Long, um, like lower price, but like sticky clients that have stayed with us for 5, 6, 7 years, and just helping to maintain their sites. And one of our employees took on that agency, and he's done an amazing job of like scaling that business. And so, from that experience, we're like, wow, like there is a world in which we can be an owner of a business, an agency business, but not have to be, in the day to day,
Mm.
but also partake in the upside. And that just, a light bulb went off, and we, decided to kind of do another test of that. So we, at the time we were starting to get like Webflow leads. And part of the reason was like a couple of our designers had really taken to Webflow and made some stuff on it. And, like Webflow took note and started sending us some leads. And we were like, wow, maybe like, and we, because we're so focused on Shopify, we're like, we're not gonna do Webflow under Barrel's banner, but maybe we can launch another agency to just do Webflow sites because we think this is a growing space. So that's where BX Studio came into play. We launched that, recruited a CEO to come in and really run the show from day one. And he's done an amazing job, just over the last 3 plus years, like growing that business. And we were nominated as an agency, Webflow Agency of the Year last year, which was great. And just really seeing that, like, before you know it, like we had 3 agencies kind of under management. And it was really, we just wanted to launch more agencies. I think we caught the bug at that point. But we knew that Se Wook and I, because we had run at that point like Barrel for over 15 years, we wanted to give ourselves an opportunity to get out of the day to day of running Barrel,
Mm.
because you just couldn't juggle doing a portfolio of agencies and running Barrel. So we executed a succession plan over the next like year and a half, 2 years, where Lucas, one of our longtime employees who started as a designer at Barrel, and he had worked up into various roles and was a leader in the organization. We said, hey, we think you can take over as CEO, and then um, we successfully kind of made that transition last year. So it's been about
Wow.
almost coming up on a year now of where like Lucas took the reins and has been running Barrel day to day, and Saywick and I, we've been busy, like just trying to, help grow the existing agencies in the portfolio, adding some more agencies. So we launched a few. We, added a couple through some, acquisitions. And so right now we have 7 agencies in the portfolio, and hopefully we could add some more this year. And yeah, that's where we're at today.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, I've got a lot of questions based on that, but my first thought is agency owners running just one agency alone deal with so many shiny objects, and you've got multiple ones on the go. So how in the early days, when you were just starting to split things apart, how did you determine what was an actual strategic opportunity versus what was just like a shiny object?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's interesting because like we did like the first 10 years, there was a good chunk of that where, I chased every shiny object and really, uh, I say it wasn't all for waste because I learned a lot from it, but, just like from a focus standpoint, it wasn't the best for the agency business. So, we had a stretch where we had a WordPress theme that we built and sold. So we were like, oh, cool, we're selling software. Or we had Shopify themes. We even launched a project management app that, had some paying subscribers. So there's like a lot of different avenues that we took the business. But like, each time, you know, w- like just the way that, we didn't like nothing was set up for success because like the focus wasn't there. And so, as soon as like some client, uh, issues came up or there was some kind of cash flow challenge on the agency side, like I had to kind of drop what I was doing with the shiny side projects and then go back to focusing on the agency. And so that kind of, yeah, like lack of focus was, I think detrimental to kind of building something worthwhile. And so there was a period where like, or a realization where we went, okay, we got to shut down all the things that are outside of building a great agency. And that was like a actually multi-year process where we just had to like wind down all these
Yeah.
things. And then it was from that point where we started to see some real growth. Like, there was a stretch where I think for 4 or 5 years, we were stuck on a revenue, level, and we thought, "Oh, we can never escape this." But then the moment we kinda shut down these other things, the growth, came back, and so, that was a really, helpful lesson. So, after that, we were like, "Okay," like, our circle of competency at this point is gonna be agencies, and so I think from there, if w as long as we keep to you know, like really understanding the model deeply, really understanding all the, ways that these things work, whether it's on the talent side, business development, client retention, all those things, like we can replicate this model with other businesses, other agency businesses.
So it seems like a really clear focus tends to be a force multiplier if you're able to actually find the right focus.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like there one of the ways we look at it is, hey, we've made every mistake in the book and done some really stupid things over the last 18 years. Wouldn't it be a shame if we couldn't leverage that into something more valuable? And so I
Mm.
think that's where a lot of this comes from. And it's not that's not to say like people can be successful without having that focus. There's plenty of other holding companies or other kinds of businesses where there's there's different types of models, different types of businesses, and they can all work. It's just our path has been to kind of our unique experience has been that we've been in this game so long. A lot of people, I think, if to have run an agency for almost 20 years, like would have flamed out or just been very tired of it.
Yeah.
Like for whatever reason, we still like doing we still love the kind of dynamics of it and what's involved in it, and the topic itself is endlessly fascinating to us. So I think that's a unique position for us.
You guys definitely have a unique level of stamina that that I haven't seen in too many other agency owners. Um, One thing that I often talk about is that agencies are such people based businesses, like people on the client side, people on the internal side. It's just people at the end of the day, and then of course you're dealing with multiple levels of people in multiple agencies. It's a really important piece of the overall recipe of what you do. So that would stand to reason that you've come up with probably a pretty good rule of thumb or metric or way to source good people. Like, what does that look like for you and your agencies?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's first and foremost kind of having a good you know definition and standards for the type of people we want to work with. And because you need a good filter to then, because we meet all kinds of people all the time, and sourcing wise, yeah, like through various I mean, it could be through the hiring channels, but then also through just introductions and referrals from others. Like you're always going to be coming across people, but I think just having a certain yeah, like having the intentionality of like, okay, like what we're looking for. And I guess it boils down, you could call it culture or whatever, but it's it's really just having this keen sense of, all right, the type of people that we want working with us, and the types of you know behaviors that we think are going to help them be successful in our companies, or in collaboration with us, are these things. And I think it boils down to a lot of it is like somebody who's going to be proactive, somebody who communicates clearly and really well, and somebody who's got like sense of urgency about things, and somebody who's going to be thoughtful and just really um analytical about situations. I mean, there's like, a handful of things that we're always kind of like, this is baseline. If they're kind of check the boxes in these ways, integrity is a really big aspect too. Like, whatever you say you're going to do and you do it, like, that's somebody we want to work with. Somebody who can do that in a reliable, consistent way. So, it's not like we have an insanely like high bar, but like we do, I think we have like, a big, we do like care a lot about these like very fundamental characteristics of people, and I think that gives us a good filter and lens into like, all right, like when we meet somebody and when we kind of dig a little bit deeper and spend some time with them, we know right away like this is a person that we want to work with or not.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Are there any specific uh, sources, I guess, that you could pinpoint where you tend to be more successful with hiring than others?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the type of roles, obviously. Like
Right.
right now, like, for yeah, like just because it's top of mind, like for agency leaders, for example, we've yeah, a lot of it just the work I put a lot of time into like posting on LinkedIn, for example, and like that's kind of helped me to build a small but engaged audience, and like folks that uh have been great about just sharing my content with other people, and so through that I've been able to develop a bit of an inbound channel of like you know people who've read my read kind of the content I've written. It's resonated with them, and so already they've kind of self-selected into being like, all right, like a lot of the things that you talk about make sense. Would love
Mhm.
to learn more about Better Holdings, and so that's been a good source. And through that, met countless number of people, and some of them we've ended up hiring as leaders of our agencies.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you find that there's a consistent makeup or what you're looking for across the agencies, or is there sort of more of a unique like fingerprint or profile depending on the agency?
Yeah, it's a combination of both because like, with there's always like like I said, there's like the basic stuff, right? Like that, you gotta check the boxes on. And then on top of that, like depending on the need, like for some agencies, it's like, hey, like because of what we're doing, this leader, and it might be a co-founder that we're starting something from scratch with, or it might be somebody who's coming in as a to kind of manage an acquired company, right? And so if it's the first one where, we're starting from something from scratch, they actually need a high degree of like skill and expertise in the area that we're going after. Like they can't just be a manager type. They have to, really kind of understand and be able to speak at an expert level about certain things.
Yeah.
But then, some companies will buy it, and then they have subject matter experts on in the organization already. And what we need more is like a leader who's going to come in and just manage the team. Maybe get involved whether on the ops side and or the sales side of things. But like their the demands on their need to know the nitty gritty side of the subjects aren't as high, and so yeah, it really depends on those aspects. But like, we want high energy, like the fingerprint wise, like we want high energy out of everyone. We want somebody who's like, motivated to and highly competitive too. Like they wanna, like we do have like financial goals, and we have, like somebody who's motivated to kind of make the numbers, and we incentivize them, with a healthy dose of profit sharing. So somebody, who's gonna be really keen to wanna make those numbers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, what does it look like from a agency standpoint? Because you're always actively looking for more agencies to add to the portfolio. What are you looking for in an agency? Maybe upfront in order for them to be interesting to you, and then once you're actually digging in, for them to actually be a viable option for you.
Yeah, I'd say like, right now our sweet spot is just from start with size. An agency probably in that like 2 to like 5-6 million dollar range on the top line, and then let's say like just from a EBITDA perspective, doing at least 400,000 a year. It could go up to yeah, uh, 1.5 2 million. So that's kind of where our sweet spot is, and that's a combination of like I think what we're comfortable kind of being able to finance quickly, and then just also where we think we could add a lot of value and just support in the infrastructure we've built out at the holdco level. Um, but beyond that, like really, the thing that excites us is like the degree of specialization. So we love agencies that have some kind of deep expertise in, let's say, a tech platform, a CRM or CMS system, maybe, or they've done, yeah, or whether it's branding, like a very specific kind of branding, or marketing, let's say, but somebody like that's kind of really honed their expertise, from a horizontal perspective, and then
Mhm.
definitely like it's either that and or vertical. So like, so on the vertical side, yeah, have they gone really deep in a particular industry? And is it an attractive industry to be in, where, there's a lot that it's not like crazy competitive, but also it's a growing industry. So, those are kind of the qualities we look for. And then if you can marry the two, where there's some degree of, you know, um, horizontal expertise and then some vertical focus, like that's really interesting too. And like we think about our own agencies, right? So Barrel, the original agency that we started, it's gone through a lot of different iterations, but like right now we've kind of we've landed at this like CPG commerce agency. So it's very focused on like, helping consumer packaged good brands, especially in the food and bev category, like focus on the commerce aspect. Like how do they kind of leverage, e-commerce channels, and their website to drive more sales through to their other channels as well as having a direct relationship with customers. So it took a while to get there, but like we think, as we've honed our positioning there, it's made it easier to attract customers, land new clients, and then really, like make the case for a value proposition and differentiation. So I think, if we can find agencies that have done that kind of work and or kind of stand out in that way, that's really exciting to us.
I'd imagine that from your seat, that also opens up a lot of like cross-selling opportunities across the agencies because you have very specific proficiencies here and there where you're going to find opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen that across the board. And it's not something that we're like, really like we don't want to be forceful about it, but it's got to feel natural and it's got to feel like it helps the client in a real way. So a good example is like, yeah, Barrel, with the CPG focus, like, they're able to send leads to our Amazon agency, which, works with health and beauty brands to help manage their Amazon accounts. And so that's been a good partnership. And I'd say, we have other agencies that are more, let's say, B2B focused. And one of them is really focused on branding. And another one's more focused on the, building B2B websites on Webflow. So they've collaborated on a bunch of clients as well. So I think, yeah, there's definitely cross-selling or kind of synergistic characteristics. At the same time, it's like it's fine if we always say like you don't have to like force it. If you think there's a better partner,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
by all means go outside the network.
Yeah. That's the most authentic, genuine way to help somebody anyways, is it's either us or it's somebody else, but as long as you get the help that you need. Very cool. So how can agencies that aren't at that $2 to $6 million level yet, how can those agencies, or maybe I'll rephrase it, what should they be looking at right now in their own agency in order to, things to focus on, things to fix, things to optimize?
Yeah. I mean, and this is yeah, it goes hand in hand with like some of the other characteristics that we're looking at in the agency. So I think kind of let's say like it's probably like three different buckets, but the first one is the on the business development side, like is what are the systems in place? Because a lot of the smaller agencies are going to be very dependent on the founder's network or the founder's activities, to kind of rely on growth or just even to kind of stay flat. And the more the agency owner could you know work with the team to design systems that go just beyond their personal activities, that helps a lot. So that could be you know things like, hey, like, is somebody running some marketing campaigns, to kind of, build top of funnel, all right? Like that, and that could be anything from, yeah, content, just, maybe webinars, like events, like all these other activities, newsletters, just a better website, just organic traffic, SEO, running paid campaigns. Like, there's a number of different things, right? Even some cold outbound emails, but like, what can be set up there that like the founder isn't just, the one directly doing it, but there's systems, there's people
Hmm.
kind of overseeing those things. So that's good to see because like then that shows us, oh, there's some infrastructure there. And then, is there actually a sales process where it's like it doesn't always have to be the founder, but there's, a process and like, hey, this is how you take the first discovery call. This is how you kind of put a proposal together. This is how you kind of walk uh, clients through this and like be able to, you know, have these touch points to kind of get to a sale and then you onboard the client afterwards. Like, is that kind of built out versus, this ad hoc thing where the founder uses their charisma and tries to sign a deal and then like, everything's
Yeah.
kind of done on the fly. So the more robustness that's there is attractive to us. And so, and it just helps the agency too, because then the founder is becomes less of a bottleneck, and there's a bit of a scale. The more leads that come in, the more responsive the organization could be to process those leads, qualify it, and then move it down the sales process. Whereas like sometimes the founder would be like, oh, I got too many leads, I'm just overwhelmed, and then they can they could drop the ball in that process. So that's super helpful. And then there's also the operations side, like, is there structure around that? Like, is it pretty clear, like, from the moment you sign a client, uh, like, like who's going to be staffed on this? How do you track the financial performance of these projects? How do you make sure, there's project schedules, timelines, and, just accountability on whether it gets done? And then, what's the quality control aspect of it like? And then what's the communication with the client throughout this? And then even beyond the launch of a or completion of a project, or the ongoing, if it's a retainer, ongoing communications with the client and the reporting of that look like. And so just, the regular SOP stuff that, I'm sure you also coach your folks on, and everyone, like, it's like, how do we make sure that is in place? And yeah, we encounter organizations, of all maturity levels on the ops side. And, and sometimes it's, you'd be surprised. Like, there are ones that do, a high level of revenue without any of those, or many of those processes still missing. So there's that. And then, and it could be even other simple things like, how are their, receivables handled, and, all the finance side of things, and, how's their bookkeeping, and how clean are their financials. So there's a lot of things there that, like, we look at and just kind of evaluate. And the more cleaned up, and, like, it's like any asset, like, just think about a house. Like, these are all things that, if it's taken care of and it looks good, then you're gonna, get good value out of it. If it's in shambles, then it's not gonna present as well. And then there's a talent aspect too. It's like, what is, like, who's on the team? I'd say, like, a lot of smaller agencies, tend to have, founder who's maybe like, not only the business development linchpin, but also like the brains of the core strategist, or whatever it might be. And so that's not as attractive, because it's kind of like, well, have you built out capacity beyond the founder to, service the work and be driver of value for the clients? And so the team makeup is also very important to us as well. When we think a lot about, hey, like, is there, on the delivery side, is there like a reliable number two that, like, if the founder were to step out of the business, go away, whatever, like, the business could still perform at a high level. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's super important. And even better if there's a leadership team, if there's, um, a team this and that. Because at a certain scale, especially at the sub, like, million level, it's usually like a founder and a bunch of contractors, and maybe one full-time person. So like, kind of like, how much have they kind of evolved from that to build a bit more structure? And I think that is the other piece we look at. And then along with that is, like, what's the recruiting process? How do they attract talent, and how do they kind of manage talent? Is something we look into.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that the people aspect is definitely really, really critical. So it makes a lot of sense that you would definitely be paying close attention to that when looking at these agencies. Is there anything that you see a lot of agencies do that any way that they're like shooting themselves in the foot? Like something consistent that you see across the board?
Yeah, I think it's like, most of it kind of boils down to, thinking about the agency as like, you know, a series of, like, the agency business as like a series of, like, discrete, like, activities they have to do, and in order to make things work, versus like seeing it as a cohesive, like, a living, breathing system. Because and so, I can explain that a bit, because, like, this is something that's always on my mind, is like, you know, this is a good example. Sometimes people are like, hey, look, like, my, like, I'm not getting as many leads, or like, my business, new business is kind of drying up. Like, um, should I invest in outbound? Okay, and so, like, that's like a question that I get a lot, and it's kind of like, hmm, like, let's take a step back and really understand. Like, first of all, like, why do you need more clients? Like, why do you need more business? You know, and like, let's dig into that. And sometimes you might find that, like, hey, look, retention is pretty poor. Like, you're trying to, you
Yeah.
know, like, a lot of times, like, you're just losing. You're not able to keep clients for a long time, and so you lose them. And then, so why is retention poor? Well, you know what? Like, your delivery mechanism is, faulty. Maybe, like, you have the wrong people working on the wrong things, or you're overpromise, under deliver, or something. There's something wrong with kind of the delivery aspect of it. And then, maybe there's something wrong with the talent aspect of it. And then, you can also argue like, oh, maybe the way you're scoping these projects and the engagements, the service design is actually wrong because, you're kind of solving the wrong problem for the clients, and that's already setting your team up to fail. So you realize like there's so many points at which like, you know, you can look at the problem and actually solve for it in a very different way. But I think a lot of folks, kind of want the thing that feels like, oh, like it's an easy fix. And so I think the systems view, it is hard. I don't think like I fully grasped this for many years. It took me probably over a decade to kind of even like wrap my head around, oh wow, these things are all related. And
Mm.
so I think and a lot of there's like, oh, there's always some kind of delay, like, like just because you fix this thing, it's not going to fix the other thing overnight, but like you have to be patient and see it through. And so
Yeah.
that's also very hard because the feeling of like, oh, I spent, whatever thousands of dollars on outbound and got this lead and then landed this deal, that feels very tangible and like feels like you're making progress. But like in the long run, if you still have a leaky bucket or if you're not able to retain clients, like, the problem's only going to be exacerbated. And so yeah, I think, it's a long answer, but I think like, I'd say like boil it down to kind of like this systems thinking, holistic, idea of like, hey, like agency, you have to think about it as a living, breathing organism and like, just or an ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. But like, it's not something where, you can just tactically or surgically fix one thing and magically problems are solved.
Yeah, it's definitely a very complex system of systems. Yeah, or organism. I think is definitely the best way to describe it. Peter, you are an absolute wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things agencies. So I really, really appreciate having you on the podcast. Where can people find out more about you and Barrel Holdings?
Yeah. So yeah, Barrel Holdings website is barrel-holdings.com. And we have some information about, just yeah, what we talked about, kind of our acquisition criteria, as well as, just links to our portfolio agencies. And then yeah, I write a lot about agency yeah, business, just kind of things that we're learning as we go along on agencyhabits.com. So that's just our kind of resource for agency operators. And then on my own site, peterking.com, I do publish like, the main thing is like a series it's almost coming up on 5 years, called Agency Journey, where every month I'll just, chronicle some of the learnings and topics that are top of mind.
Very, very cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.